Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, Block Dragon has been limited to 1 along with Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, or Supreme King Starving Venom Dragon. I don't know, the Pendulum card. And I wanted to see what actually happened. Did anything change, or is this just a placebo effect? So I decided to take up both of these decks that I have recently built. Pendulum that I recently built, and I wanted to test them with the new ban list in mind. The limitation of Block Dragon, as you can see, we're running basically the same thing, just with 1 Block Dragon, and with the Pendulum, you'll see later, to just see what actually happened. What changed? Did anything change? And more specifically, does Block Dragon and Starving Venom, going to 1 actually do anything? So, let's quickly discuss Block Dragon, okay? Block Dragon is an insane card, plus 3, plus an infinite body, plus level 8, plus is able to revive itself from grave or hand, plus gets you, Baron, plus L, plus ratio, plus your white. All of that fantastic things, all of those fantastic things. Just truly an incredible card. And, in Adamancipator, you're just kind of able to make unbreakable boards that a lot of people have difficulty dealing with. On top of the fact that it is a long combo and people are easily going to scoop if they realize that they do not have interactions, makes it a very powerful deck for the ladder as well as for the KC or the Duelist Cup, which is where this originally came from. Right? Now, I have changed things up because the deck that we were playing previously was slightly different due to the fact that Block Dragon was at 3, so things technically changed. However, overall, the end boards have not changed at all one bit, and I will show you that in the replay, but let's quickly discuss what actually did change. So first and foremost, we did have to get rid of the 2 Block Dragons. The only difference is that now, instead of searching it guaranteed or just drawing it or milling it off of grass or something like that through a single Gallant Granite, I have now added in Union Carrier to do the same thing. We just Union Carrier, attach it to a rock, send the rock to the graveyard, and then we get Blocky Boy in order to go and activate his effects to search out a whole bunch of cards. Now, notably, if you do this, you can't special the Block Dragon, but you still get the +3, so, who cares? However, I will say that the overall change that this does is it actually makes my end board even more annoying. Well, it does make it slightly more inconsistent because I'm adding in more bricks. I still see Block Dragon whenever I want to because cards like Small World exist, cards like That Grass Looks Greener, Hard Drawing It still happens, Gallant Granite still happens, Union Carrier is still a thing. I basically see it whenever I need to see it. Also, I can search it off of SnowiKs. Yeah, I'm sure no one actually thought about that. It's not search, it's ascend, but still. So yeah, if SnowiKs goes to the graveyard, which we can send to the graveyard with this guy, and then we banish it in any meaningful way, we get to then send Block Dragon, which is great. So, there's that. Yeah, pretty simple. We have a lot of ways of seeing Block Dragon. So, yeah, I really had no difficulties seeing this card. I really don't think it changed anything at all. My deck is still slightly inconsistent due to grass and 60 cards, but when I needed to, I saw this card. In fact, I would say that my deck was even more consistent than it was previously, because now, when I actually activate my Adamancipators, they are able to go off and actually work most of the time, or at least more often, because there are 2 less copies of dead cards in my deck, and instead we're playing more rocks like a Revival Golem and the like, that we can actually summon. So, give and take, Actually, I may be playing the exact same number of rocks, but the fact of the matter is, more or less, I'm still able to get what I need, right? It's still the same consistency. So, let's show you the duels, or the duel, I have 1 replay, and show you what actually ends up happening with this deck. Alright, so here we are going second, and I am about to make you all lose your minds. Yes, I drew Block Dragon. That's crazy. In 60, and it's a 1-of? Oh no. Guess what? This happens way more often than you might anticipate. I actually drew a Block Dragon quite a few times the day that I played this. I played quite a few duels, drew this more often than I'd like to admit. It was just kind of glued to my hand. And honestly, it was more of a brick when I actually drew it. I'd much rather have searched it off of Gallant Granite or what have you. Ignore what my opponent is doing because it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm going to negate their activation of the Water Enchantress. They're going to go and activate their Nemesis Corridor to go into the Thunder Dragon Colossus, which will then allow them to go in and end on a DPE using Double Dasher. I don't know what's going on here. It's adventure stuff, but they do end on the Colossus and Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. Honestly, not really that big of a deal. We're going to start off with the Researcher, which will then prompt them to add the second Dracoback, which they already have a Dracoback in hand, keep that in mind. And for some reason, they also didn't decide to immediately destroy the Researcher, but okay, that's fine. We had signs, so it didn't matter, but yeah. Anyway, we are going to reveal Doki Doki and Xenoguitar, which are the only summonable monsters that we can go for. Then we're going to special summon out the Doki Doki, which will allow us to then special summon out the Researcher, and then we are going to link off the Researcher into Almirage. This was when I was playing Almirage. I cut Almirage eventually, but yeah, Almirage is interesting in this list, and it happens to win me this duel in particular. Anyway, we're going to go for Adamancipator Signs here, and we are going to then go and stack a card to the top of our deck. I'm then going to go for Herald of Arclight, which then allows me to go for a 6 here. So yeah, that was the plan there. So also, because I was under the Almirage, like I could just tribute off the Almirage to prevent my monster from being destroyed. Yeah, the DPE kind of wasn't doing anything there. So yeah, cool, good game. Block Dragon is still there. Alright, so here's the thing. I still had a really hard time actually finding people who would sit through the combo and wait till I actually made an end board, because 9 times out of 10, they knew that the game was over anyway. Either you have the interaction and you're able to stop the board prior to them realistically doing anything, and Block Dragon being limited to 1 literally doesn't mean anything, or you're not going to sit through that combo, right? Either you have the out, or you don't. It's that simple. It's always been that way, and that's just Adamancipator, right? Limiting Block Dragon has changed nothing. At least in Master Duel. Yes, it technically changes things, but it's definitely mostly just a placebo effect. Either you can out the board because you're playing things like Lava Golem and the like, or you literally can't. It's just that simple, and Block Dragon does facilitate that, even at 1. The biggest thing, the biggest problem that I had was Block Dragon potentially being banished now off of something like Runics. That's it. Granted, if Runics are playing the game, I've probably already lost, right? Because they probably already have some floodgates and stuff like that, which happened a lot. If I went first, Runics didn't get to play the game. If they went first, I didn't get to play the game. It was very simple. That's Adamancipator. Nothing changed. Cool. Moving on to the next deck. And here we have Pendulum, Supreme King Dragon Starving Venom. Dear Lanta, this name I will never get into my thick skull. This card has been limited to 1. Now, what did this actually change? You can no longer FTK. But I did want to see if this actually changed Pendulum, like as a whole, and if Pendulum could still kind of do the same thing. So I decided I'd take this deck, as you see here. I took it into Ranked and saw how well it did, trying to see, did the not having multiple Starving King really change anything? And in all honesty, I'm terrible at this deck, so I am not one to say, but from what I have noticed, this really didn't change anything for most of the Pendulum stuff. Yes, it does stop the FTK, which is great, but the biggest thing that it changes is you can no longer run a Hope Harbinger. Because you no longer have access to multiple level 8s. So going into the Hope Harbinger is way more difficult, because you can't just go like fusion, Igzy into this guy, and then pass on this. But all things considered, it's still decent. Just having the 1 is enough, because now you have copies. Well, now you have, instead of 4 copies of Electromite, you have 2. Because Electromite, for some reason, is on once per turn, but that's fine. So yeah, all things considered, you still basically do the same thing. You're still able to loop the Astrograph and the Chronograph, which was really just insane. But what it actually did was it opened up a lot of extra deck space where I previously didn't have it. Previously, I wasn't running Zeus. that never really came up. But also previously, I wasn't running IP Masquerena, which came up a lot. I wasn't running Avermax, which came up a lot. And I wasn't running Access Code, which came up... What? Never. But, you know, these two in particular were part of the end board to really help, like, solidify my board and make it more difficult to deal with. Because it's like, ending on Time Pendulum Graph, maybe Baron, maybe a Time Star or something like that. Pretty decent. However, when you add in an IP Masquerena and an Avermax, all of a sudden things get way more interesting. Or, well, at least for you. So, yeah, I'm going to quickly just discuss the list. I added in Curtain Raiser. I think previously we were playing a whole bunch of, like, bricks for the FTK. Things like Instant Fusion, things like the 2 Fusion necessary requirements for this guy. The Fusion Pendulum, I think. I forget its name. Anyway. Took those out, threw in the Curtain Raiser, cut it down to a nice 40. Curtain Raiser is really nice. It's just a free special summon of a Pendulum monster, which gets you into Beyond the Pendulum really, really cleanly. And then you can actually go, like, Beyond the Pendulum into a search, into a Pendulum summon, to then go for the Electromite, which is really nice, all things considered. So, yeah, honestly, for me, who wasn't playing the FTK or wasn't very good at the FTK, the deck got better, which is hilarious. But that was simply due to the fact that we cut out a lot of the chaff and are now playing consistency cards, which is great. So, yeah, let's hop into the duels, show you how this deck actually performed. Alright, so here we are going at second, and it's not the greatest of hands, but it's not the worst. I think my opponent, yep, sets 2 and passes. This should be interesting, right? We do have a double Curtain Raiser, which isn't the greatest, but, you know, hey, that's a pretty nice draw. Purple Poison, okay. They flip up, there can only be one. That's fine. Guess what? Most of our monster, well, at least with this hand, we do have a few different types. Most notably, we have the Fiend as well as the Spellcaster, and then we can also go into some other extra deck types. Just kidding, we're not playing the freaking game. Love to see it. 10 out of 10. So yeah, Revelry, and there can be only one. I guess we're summoning out Curtain Raiser and passing. Now, luckily, because of the fact that we have the ability to search out the Time Pendulum Graph, we're going to do that, and since we already drew the Purple Poison, we can actually deal with both of these Floodgates with a single activation. Super nice. So, my opponent is going to, or we're going to pass back after dealing 28, and hey, there's the Runic. They're going to target our Purple Poison for some reason, instead of targeting our set card. I don't know what their plan was here with this, because this just allows me to go and pop one of these, but okay. Sure. I'm actually going to pop their Fountain, because that seems a little bit more problematic. And then I'm also going to pop the Rivalry, because, again, it's a little bit more difficult to be under that one type. Having there can be only one, we can still get a Spellcaster out onto our side of the field, so that's at least 2 monsters, maybe turn up the clock a little, so yeah, that's why I go for that one. We draw the Double Iris, which is actually pretty nice, and the second Rivalry, they're just better than me, you know? Anyway, that's fine, we're gonna pop the second there can be only one. Okay, never mind, my opponent has bricked to high heaven. Anyway, we are going to go for the Star Pendulum Graph here off of our Double Iris that we popped. We're going to pump or attack for 22, and my opponent just draws the best card out of it. Just draw the best card. What? Never mind, this Runic player doesn't know how to play the game. Anyway, during the end phase, I'm actually going to pop one of their cards. They're going to banish a few cards from the top of my deck. That's a-okay. We're going to draw a card since one of our cards left, or search a card because one of our cards left the field, and they're going to card optimize away their last Flashing Fire, which they could have used to special summon a monster, but nope, they didn't want to do that. So I guess I just win the game. This was a sad display, that probably the saddest display that I've ever seen out of a Runic player, and it's not like it's difficult. Like, we thought Eldritch was hard. No. Apparently Runic is. Alright, and here we are going first against... Oh, what Triff! Yo, it's Triff Gaming! You're right, yep, you heard it here correctly. We are playing a Pendulum against the one and only Triff. Now, this opening hand is interesting. So I'm going to set my scales, and we're going to pen someone out. One, that's right, one. We're going to go for the Sorcerer here, which is actually a pretty good draw, all things considered, given our hand. So we're going to pop 2, search 2, and search a third one, which is the Double Iris. And we are going to then normal summon out the Skullcrobat Joker. I'm going to search out the Wisdom Eye, then we're going to link off into Electromite. Electromite effect will activate. We're going to set the Chronograph, because I kind of need a little bit more extension, need more bodies and stuff like that. So I'm going to go for the Chronograph here. We're going to set the Oath Dragon, which will add the Harmonizing Magician to our hand. We're going to pop one, add back the Chronograph. Chronograph is going to activate, Double Iris is going to activate, and we're going to special summon out 2. We also happened to draw the Luster Pendulum off of the Electromite effect, which we popped one of our, we popped Wisdom Eye earlier. That's what we ended up drawing. So now we're going to search out the Time Pendulum Graph, and then we're going to go for the second Electromite. We're then going to scale up our card that we drew and go for the second Chronograph. Chronograph is going to then allow us to go and search during the end phase using our Celestial Magician. So we're going to search during the end phase, and then we are going to go for the IP Mask Arena, set the Time Pendulum Graph, search out the Skullcrabat Joker during the end phase, and pass. Now this really doesn't seem like a lot, because honestly, it's not. It's basically Time Pendulum Graph and Ash, but given the hand that we had, it's still decent. Oh, also we have IP Mask Arena to go into an Avermax that is unaffected, or sorry, indestructible, untargetable, and also has removal if it is removed in some way. So I'm feeling pretty good. We're also going to Ash the Oviraptor that comes down, because they don't have anything. They don't have like a Misc or anything. I could tell that they didn't have anything. So because of that, we're going to obviously hit the Oviraptor here to prevent them from getting into that Misc, making their cards unaffected, so that this Pendulum Graph is still able to go through. I see the Lithosogym come down, and I go, okay, I don't want to have to deal with them potentially banishing my my Avermax from the extra deck, because they could have. So I go for the Avermax there, and no, they just banished 3 of my Pendulums, which honestly doesn't really matter. Anyway, out comes the Baby Ceresaurus, and I don't want them to pop the Baby Ceresaurus, so I go for the Time Pendulum Graph here. We're going to search out the Purple Poison as well, and just kind of hope that they don't have an out to the Crusadia. That's basically my goal. Just hope and pray they do not have an out to the Crusadia. They're going to pop a card. They're going to go for Baby Ceresaurus to go for a Misc, and then out comes Buster Blader. Interesting. Did you know that Crusadia Avermax has a taunt effect? I hate this card. I despise this card with IP Mask Arena. Now, granted, without IP Mask Arena, totally fine card. With IP Mask Arena, absolute abomination that deserves to be burned at the stake. Anyway, the reason for that sentiment is this very simple line of text. Also, their monsters cannot target monsters for attacks except this one. Meaning, they are always forced to go into combat with this guy. Why is that the case? I don't know. It's really annoying. He always wins battle, and then they're also just like, nah. And I understand, you know? I get it. It says connection fail. They didn't connection fail. They surrendered. So, all things considered, did the Supreme King Starving Venom Dragon limitation really change much? Honestly, yes. It made the deck more healthy, even though Pendulum is not healthy in any way, shape, or form, because Electromite exists. But more healthy is still, you know, you're going from 16 cans of soda a day to 15. It's still healthier. Does it matter? No. But it's healthier. So, all things considered, it's a plus. At least the ban list did something, right? We're not going to talk about the other things, because they literally didn't change anything. So, all things considered, at least something changed, right? Now we don't have to deal with the FTK being nearly as consistent. There are still many ways to FTK your opponents and have them be consistent due to the absolute just degeneracy that is currently available in Master Duel. But all things considered, man, I've said that a lot. But with this in mind, we do have at least some sort of limitation when it comes to the FTKs. So Konami's at least doing something. If only they could do a little bit more. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, a like is very much so appreciated. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh, just be sure to subscribe. Also, if you want to actually check out the full VODs where I played both of these decks, you can go check those out in the stream playlist, or the stream VODs playlist. You can go check those out on the channel. They're the two ones where it's the limitation of these. You'll understand. You'll see it, I promise. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.